It's time now to take a look at stories making the headlines on Nigerian newspapers. And I have with me in the studio a journalist, Ify Onyegbule. We hope that Akeredolu will join us much later. Ify, good morning. Good to have you here.
Good to see you.
Great. All right, let's head straight to the papers. And I begin with the Daily Sun. Laws against open grazing. Akeredolu hits Rufai hard. Calls Kaduna governor's statement against southern governors devious. All right, you find details of the story on the pages of the Daily Sun. To the Nation newspaper now, zoning. PDP North leaders take formula before panel. Will stick to 2017 distribution of offices. Ugwanyi panel meets with party chiefs in Enugu. Details on the pages of the Nation newspaper. To the Punch newspaper now. Jega Utomi groups others team up against APC PDP, unveil party October the 1st. PRP, ADC, LP to form nucleus of new mega party, plan convention. Well, 95 associations seek registration as political parties, more to emerge. Details on the pages of the Punch newspaper. We'll move to the front page of the Daily Times now. Why federal government can't yet name shame sponsors of terrorism. Malami. Why federal government can't yet name shame sponsors of terrorism. Malami, that's the Attorney General of the Federation, speaking there. To the Blueprint newspaper now. Why we can't name shame Boko Haram financiers. Then you have the AGF Malami speaking there. You find details on the pages of the Blueprint newspaper. To this Nigerian newspaper now, 5 billion naira debt. AMCON seizes ex-Kwara governor's mansion. Court freezes account. Security operatives evict Ahmed. Seizure unnecessary over zealous. Right. To the First News newspaper, 5 billion naira debt. Seizing my property unnecessary. Ahmed protests. To the News Direct now, ex-Kwara Governor Ahmed loses mansion to AMCON over 5 billion naira debt. 7 others in Abuja and Lagos. You find the details of the story on the pages of the Nigerian News Direct. To the Leadership newspaper, federal government pushes for recovery of £2 billion looted funds. All right, you find details on the Leadership newspaper. To the Daily Trust now, 2 years after MOU, federal government's $2.3 billion Siemens power project flops. Project at design stage, phase 1 year to begin. Officials, 2021 target of 7,000 megawatts not feasible. Government creates company shops for engineers. To the Business Day now, Nigeria's imports trapped overseas over container scarcity. Nigeria's imports trapped overseas over container scarcity. To the Guardian newspaper, foreign cargo airlines depart empty over extortion, multiple charges. 11 out of 16 sundry charges are illegal. Investigation reveals Nigeria's import to export air freight ratio imbalance at 87 to 13. Over $250 billion agro-allied market potential in waste, stakeholders say. To the Vanguard newspaper now, budget 2022, experts frown as Senate passes MTEF FSP, approves 13.98 trillion naira for 2022 budget, pegs oil benchmark at $57, exchange rate at 410 naira to the US dollar, crude production at 1.88 barrels per day. All right, you find details on the pages of the Vanguard newspaper. This Day newspaper now, Senate approves 13.98 trillion naira 2022 budget projection, retains 8.36 trillion naira revenue target, benchmarks oil at $57 per barrel, 410 naira to a dollar exchange rate. Okay, it's crude production, and you find all of those details on the pages of this Day newspaper. To the Tribune now, we can't say government shouldn't borrow, Senate President. blames past administration for lack of foresight to provide for the rainy day. Present administration has rubbished Fiscal Responsibility Act. Suswan speaking there. Let's begin from this story on the front page of the Daily Sun. You know that the southern governors met and decided to begin to implement the anti-open grazing law, and that has been generating reaction. The latest coming from Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir Rufai, who yesterday, if you look at the pages of the papers yesterday, said that the law is not implementable, and accused the governors, the southern governors, of politicizing the situation, that it cannot be done overnight, and developing that the state, that's Kaduna now, is developing a huge ranch to centralize the ranching headers within the state. And then the reaction we are getting from the chairman of the Southwest Governors, that's the in person of the governor of Ondo State, Akeredolu. He said that it is unfortunate, that's a statement that Rufai made, is unfortunate, and that he should desist from plunging the nation into anarchy, and that Rufai is struggling hard to export banditry to the south. I mean, what do you make of these two extremes to this issue?
Well, I just think that it's beautiful the way things are turning out.
Really?
I think I love the way it's going, because this is the very first time. I'm sure some people are sitting in their homes and wondering, how come the South is now coming together? Let me use the word coagulating. They're coming together to say, this is exactly what we want in the region. I'm not sure anyone believed that it was ever going to happen, that the governors in the South will come together and agree on something for the very first time. Then I'm looking at the gentleman in Kaduna, that's the Kaduna State Governor,
right,
who's coming out to say, look, that it's not implementable, you give us time, we're going to do this. No one's coming to tell him what's going to happen in Kaduna State. The governors were elected to work and do stuff in their states. And they've come together to say, look, we need to secure the lives and the properties of our people. So we're saying no to your open grazing. Think about something else to do. So for the governor of Kaduna State to come out to say, look, that they're trying to politicize it, I would think that he's the one trying to bring politics into the matter.
Right.
The people have said, this is the way we want to go. And I think that the governor should take it as it is. And I always say to us, while we're always talking about cows and open grazing, this is private business, for crying out loud. So why is it something that is paramount?
A major issue.
I don't understand, for the government. So this is something we need to look at. It is private business. Let's deal with it as it is. If they've said in the South that this is it, we don't want it.
But does his statement really warrant this kind of reaction from the governor, Akeredolu, saying that he's trying to plunge the nation into anarchy? Is this an implied interpretation of what Rufai is?
Veronica,
saying?
you and I we're here. This is what we can see. These are governors. They have an idea. They are privy to information that you and I may not have.
Absolutely.
So for a governor like, Aketi to come out to say, look, this is what this person is trying to do. I don't think the man will come out like that to say that. That's a lawyer, for crying out loud. He must have looked at it left, right,
know the
front and back, and he knows the implication of what it is that he says. So for him to come out and say it as it is, put it on the table, well, I think people need to look at it.
But there are those who are saying that these people, talking about the governors on a general level now, that they have to be careful with the kind of statement they make, because of the level of sensitivity to issues as it is in the country, and that they should begin to look at how they can sit at a round table and have conversations without going into extremes, conversations that can move the country forward.
But I agree, because whether you like it or not, these governors all have their constituents. They have people who follow them, whether on social media or whether in real life. They have people who adhere to some of the things that they say. So it's important for them to understand that the polity is heated already. They've got to be careful the things that they say. But then again, we need to call a spade a spade. The time has come for us to say, this is what it is. Let it be exactly how it is. It's not that you're saying something and you're meaning something else. But as you try to do that, you've got to be careful with the kind of things that you say so that you don't truly plunge the country into an abyss where we might never get to come back from. But this issue of open grazing, I think they should take a look at it and deal with it before 2023. Which
I believe, as many Nigerians do, is what they're trying to do with the kind of implementation that we have seen most of the South-West governors and even the South-South governors doing at this time.
But Veronica, let's also bring to the fore the fact that in some parts of the North, Kano precisely, you read in the papers how bottles and, trucks of beer, they're destroyed and all of that.
And that is not an issue?
No, it's not an issue back here in the South.
Yeah.
Because we always say that, look, when you're in Rome, you behave like the Romans.
Absolutely.
If you do that, of course there are Christians. They have been to Kano and something's happened because people have a wrong impression of the place. I went to the pool. I did quite a number of things and nobody came at me.
I recall.
But you have to conform with what it is that people do wherever it is that you find yourself. So if the South did not raise an eyebrow to say, look, don't destroy beer bottles or don't destroy beer cans and stuff like that, I don't think there's any reason why you should come at them for coming together to say, we don't want this open grazing. By the way, I saw a video this morning on someone's timeline where, this cattle, they put them in a confinement, a confined environment. But there are ways that you give them their food and they come close there, they get to eat, they take their water, they still roam around instead of carrying them all over the place. That's the ranching as it is. And I think it's something that we need to look at.
Absolutely. And then there's this last question I'd like to ask, Ify, perhaps it could be a yes or no answer. Do you think that this law that has become an issue of debate will actually address this issue of open grazing?
Yes, it should.
Will solve every problem.
It should, if people are sincere. It should, if people are sincere. But you know what they do when you talk about politicians? They try to play politics with everything. And foot soldiers, some of them just hear go. They don't hear the words come. And that's very wrong. So I think they need to stop playing politics with this. It is what it is. The South, the governors have said, look, no to open grazing. I think the Northern governors should just do something and find a way to deal with the matter.
Right. Let's now move to the story on the front page of the Daily Times, where the Attorney General of the Federation is saying that they can't yet name shame sponsors. I don't know why you're laughing, sponsors of terrorism and all of it. Because this is one matter they had said at some point that they were going to publicize the names of financiers.
Name and shame.
Okay, name and shame as it is. But suddenly we saw even the UAE come up with some names. And a lot of Nigerians have been waiting to see what the federal government will do to addressing those names, how it will ensure justice is done and seen to be done. And now the Attorney General of the Federation, who understands the law, is now coming to say that, no, we are not going to name and shame these people as it is now. But this is generating reactions, Ify, and I wonder what you think.
The point is clear there. Did you give a reason? I'm not sure he gave a reason why they would not want to.
He says justice is what they are going to ensure is done.
To who?
Not name and shame.
Okay, so
this is not perhaps justice in itself.
It simply means that they've continued to take Nigerians for granted. Things are happening. People have died. Children have been kidnapped. People have been sacked from their homes. Nigerians have become quote and unquote refugees in their own countries because of some of these things that we're talking about. And you're saying to us that you can't yet name and shame them. Why that is what I truly don't know. And it's really sad.
That the way to they want to ensure justice is done, and that will be on the path of prosecuting, not naming and shaming them. But what can this really even achieve?
Exactly. But when you get people who are seemingly nobodies when we talk about crime as it is. You're quick to parade them. You put them out there. People get to see them, even though sometimes when you look at it, you're wondering where they got all these people from. And once we just see them on TV or on the pages of newspapers, we don't see or hear about them again. But this has happened. Of course, when that report came, that foreign media brought out those names, talked about those names, it was expected that, you know, in Nigeria, the government would tell us exactly what it is. But I just don't want to believe that is what it is, where you have people who are also very popular, or maybe in government as it is, because there was also a report that talked about, you know, people there who are who are sympathetic to the cause of the terrorists or the Boko Haram members. I hope that's not what it is, but we're waiting with what it is that's going on. We're waiting to see if Malami wakes up one morning and decides to say, look, let's just do this. Let's let the people know exactly those who have been troubling Nigeria so that justice can actually be done. But
then again, if we name and shame them, what do we achieve from that?
He has said that justice will be done. It's not about just naming and shaming. Remember, a lot of, I'm sorry I have to say this, but many people have become shameless. And that's why you see that someone will wake up and take what does not belong to him, talking about the money that belongs to Nigeria as it is. You take it for your family and your generations unborn. So I asked the question, how do they sleep at night? And that's to tell you that a lot of people have thrown away the gift of shame. So it's not just about
shame is a gift.
Yes, they've thrown away the gift of shame. They don't care about it anymore. They take the monies, they you know, stash it away for themselves, their families, their generations unborn. But it's not about naming and shaming, as I'm talking about. Will justice be served?
Right.
That is the question. Because
there been an antecedent of ensuring that justice is served? Because for some persons, this is part of the justice that they want to see.
Exactly, exactly. And it's not just about naming them. If you name them, people shame them, they see themselves on the page. In fact, they become superstars all over again. Nothing happens. Ask yourself the question of the monies that were seen at the airport in Kaduna, the money that was that they saw somewhere in one of the apartments in Ikoyi. What happened to those monies? Who owned those monies? We don't get to hear all of these things, and I think that it's a shame. The government needs to move beyond exactly where it is now. If you need to name them so that Nigerians can know them and let justice take its course.
Because this issue of justice is a major issue in the country. Because a lot of persons, this is what we see is, as some Nigerians have said, is constituting some of the challenges we see in some part of the country, because they feel that you are not ensuring that justice is served to certain persons who are causing or wreaking havoc in certain parts of the country, yet they have a right to constitute whatever it is they are. How do we strike a balance?
Striking a balance, it's about doing the right thing. I always say that. You've got to do the right thing. You've just talked about it now. Things happen. Tell me one big man who has gone to jail and has been stripped of everything that he stole from the country. Right? It never happens. You never see such a thing. So it's become a norm. It's become a way of life for us that you do crime in Nigeria. Maybe they just parade you before. And you know, here, we know how to forget things. Every week there's something new and people just forget. Now, you look at it. People have done all sorts. You read in the paper, the headlines now, a former governor who says, look, taking over his property was very wrong, even when he's being accused of being in debt of 5 billion as it is. Who does that? He's even talking as it is. So that's exactly what happens. And you find that young people or people who are deciding to go into crime will say, look, if those who are at the helm of affairs are doing it, what stops us from doing it? We take the people, we ask for ransom, they pay us the money. It's become a lucrative business and they don't care whatever happens.
Isn't this hampering the effort of government at dealing with the aspect of insecurity?
Government needs to do the right thing. Government needs to do the right thing.
Do they understand that it is hampering all the efforts?
They should. You have a vice president who's a lawyer. You have the attorney general. You have some other lawyers in that cabinet, in government. When they sit together, I'm asking the question, what does it even take to set Nigeria on the path of greatness, or bring it back to what it used to be, the giant of Africa. What does it take? The common man will understand exactly what it is. But you wonder, when you get into office, whatever happens.
What changes?
That's what I don't know. Something just happens and people don't see exactly what it is anymore. They know exactly what it is that they should do. And I think they should set the precedence. They have an idea what it is that they can do right and how justice can actually be served.
Else the implication?
That's it. I just hope we don't continue to go around in circles, because we keep talking about the implications of not serving justice. This happens. I don't want to go through the amount of money. This happens in this government. You move on to the next government. Monies are missing. Think about the monkey that ran away with some whopping sum of money. The snake swallowed money. You hear all sorts.
You have to bring that in.
You understand? You hear all sorts of things happening, but no one.
So how then are we really fighting
book.
corruption and insecurity, which were the basis for which the government says this current administration came in the first place? Are we really fighting this fight?
Veronica, that question should just be put on the table of Mr. President. He's the one to answer the question. Because
from your point of view.
Because he said to us that he was coming to office to actually fight corruption. But you find out, yes, I know corruption. Yes, corruption and insecurity. These are hydra-headed monsters. It did not start in his time. He just came and took over the reins. But we also understand that there are countries bigger than Nigeria who are facing crazier challenges. They found a way to deal with these challenges. Why? Because they are sincere. That's the truth. You don't mount a thing and do something else. It's about you doing the right thing. The laws must be in place. We need to follow the laws. It must be implemented. And unless that is done, we'll just keep going round in circles.
Sincerity being a major issue here.
Yes.
Another aspect that a lot of persons have talked about, I don't know if that also has to do with sincerity, trust. When we see the back and forth within the governors with regards to the ban on open grazing that we are talking about, some persons believe the aspect of trust is the missing link, why we see the back and forth, the spat between the governors of, some governors of the South and some governors of the North.
We're just going to overflog issues, or maybe like flogging a dead horse as it is. Trust has always been the issue when things like this come to the fore. You find that people might even have a meeting. So I ask myself the question, when people go for the FEC meeting, what are they talking about? When they go for the NGF, Nigerian Governors Forum, what do they talk about? I'm thinking that Nigeria should be the project. Yes, collectively, Nigeria should be the project. But when you look at the governors, your state should actually be the project for you. And it's your responsibility to keep the people safe. How do you keep the people safe? You've got to do what is right. So that your people can actually sleep with their two eyes closed. Now, when you look at it, these things are happening. The governors in the north are saying, look, those in the south, that they're not being sincere, or they're not being taking into account what it is that other states are facing. The issues are bigger than what it is that we see. And except they are sincere with what it is that's going on, I'm sorry, Veronica, we might just continue to go around in circles.
In circles. Wow. It's really a lot, really, because Nigerians are watching, and they have saddled them with the responsibility to chart a course for them. Unfortunately, we will just have to fold our arms and watch as things play out. But I must thank you, broadcast journalist Ify Onyegbule, for your time on the Newspaper Review.
Thank you for having me.